All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, is Nigeria's #1 financial newsroom. In fact, the Nigerian Broadcasters Merit Award Business Program of the Year. That's in Nigeria, you know. Anyway, my guest is joining me, Dr. Obadiah Milafia. He was a former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. We're looking at re-engineering growth and prosperity. Or his article on Business Day newspapers on Monday, A Purpose-Driven Nation. Dr. Milafia, good to see you all as always, and thank you for joining me on the show today.
Great to be here, Nancy, as always, and again, congratulations on the award as the best financial, pro show of the country. That's an excellent, excellent, achievement.
Very much, sir.
And I'm very proud of what you're doing and what you've been able to achieve so far. And I'm sure that the best is yet to be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I would also say thank you, because the award is for every one of us, especially for those of you that have been on the show, that have made it also tick in terms of your inputs, in terms of intellectual inputs, the knowledge on a daily basis. So thank you very much also for being part of our show in the past few years, almost a decade now.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it, that it's almost 10 years.
Absolutely, time moves fast.
Of the program. But many thanks, Dr. Milafia.
Well done.
You know, you always write on Business Day newspapers every Monday. I try as much. You try. I try as much as possible to also read. To read. And for some of your articles that I just take particular interest. You know, we talked over the weekend also over this article, A Purpose-Driven Nation. Do you think we are not purposeful as it is right now, as a country?
Well, I wish I could answer on the affirmative. Unfortunately, I can't. I don't think that we have found our national purpose. I don't think we have found our vocation. And I don't think we have come to the full realization of our destiny as a country. Everybody knows that Nigeria is one country on earth that performs well below its expectations, well below its potentials in terms of people, talent, natural resources, endowment, and the rest of it. And it all boils down to our failure, to have a collective purpose and to become a purpose-driven nation. And to me, that is very, very critical, because if you look at America, what makes America great is a sense of manifest destiny that they've had since their founding fathers. In fact, since the days of the Pilgrim Fathers that first settled in New England, in Massachusetts, in Vermont, and the rest of it, the idea of the American dream that everyone can aspire to. And that sense of greatness, that sense of panache that the American people have is there for everyone to see. And it's set as an ideal for the whole of the people to aspire to and for the leadership to aspire to. If you look at France, they have the ideal of égalité, fraternité, and solidarity. Equality, fraternity, and solidarity. They have those ideals that have always led France. And, that self-belief that France is the guardian of universal civilization. And everything that they do, they must aspire to excellence. I just gave a few examples. Even Malaysia as a country, the idea of the Bumiputra, that we are the originals. There's nothing we cannot achieve if we set our mind to it. When you come to Nigeria, what do we teach our young people about the greatness of Nigeria? What do we make them aspire to? I don't think we have that understanding, that self-understanding of our manifest destiny as a country.
I'm just thinking, the greatness of Nigeria Is Nigeria indeed great? Or was there a point we were great and we're gradually losing it? If you're asking and saying that, is Nigeria indeed a great country? Great in what at this time?
Well, I think Nigeria is still a great country.
Are you saying that out of patriotism? Perhaps because we're Nigerians, we should actually say our country is a great nation?
It's a great nation because there are great people in Nigeria.
Okay,
but
because of
not
the people?
Yes.
How about
but
the indices that
nation.
show that most of the indices are down south? You take a look at the HDI, the Human Development Index is down. Among the corrupt nations in the world, we are there.
Yes.
You know, a whole lot of indices, we rank low. None of our universities are in the top 1,000 universities.
That's true.
So are we really indeed a great nation? Or we're just making excuses for ourselves or trying to tap ourselves at the back and say, trying to deceive ourselves actually, and say that we're a great nation out of deceit, so to speak. Shouldn't we tell ourselves the truth at this time that perhaps there was a time we were great, but we are no more on the path of greatness, but we should strive to be on the path of greatness, to be indeed great?
Well, I think it's a matter of perspective.
So people will say,
it's
what
a matter
question
of
am I asking now? Am I a patriotic Nigerian?
No, of course I know you're a patriotic Nigerian. And you see, the Americans call it tough love. Sometimes the child you love, you discipline the most because you want the best out of this child and you want them to live up to their potentials. So I think we're still a great country. But we could be far greater. By saying we're a great country does not mean that I'm overlooking many of our shortcomings, and there are very many. Power, electricity. Look at the carnage on our roads. We have the worst carnage record in history. You know, it is incredible. You know, every day, you know, hundreds die on the roads. They're crushed to death by bad drivers, cars that should not be roadworthy, and the rest of it. You know, random nihilistic violence everywhere, lawlessness. You know, most things don't work unless you can pay your way. So in many ways, we have gone from being a third world country to being a fourth world country in so many ways, actually.
Okay. Doctor, is it a fourth world country?
Sorry?
Is it a fourth world country?
In certain aspects, we have moved to being a fourth world country because even the poorest countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, they don't take light. You know, electricity works. So, and you open the taps, there's water. When you come to Nigeria.
But those citizens too also cry that there's poverty in the land.
Yes,
and
indeed.
all of that, other countries in Africa.
Of course. So in some aspects, we have regressed. But, you know, the innate potential is there. And there are great Nigerians, great scientists, great intellectuals, great broadcasters, you know, great writers, you know, the great entrepreneurs, Dangote and the rest of them. So we have people who are doing marvelous things, and we should continue to encourage them. There are highly talented people in Nigeria. So it is still a great country, in spite of our deformities, which are very pathetic indeed.
Okay, for those who are actually watching us and you really want to contribute, we're looking at re-engineering growth and prosperity. We're talking about a purpose-driven nation, as written by Dr. Milafia. I did say the article was published on Monday, Business Day and newspapers. Of course, I did read that article. So we're discussing it today. What can actually make us purposeful? How can we begin again the development process? If there wasn't the daytime, we were on the path of development, but is halted at this time. So tweet me at Nancy Lo. That's the handle. Doctor, in your article, you did say that first and most crucially, national power elites must evolve a consensus on the Nigerian national project. What does that mean?
Well, let's face it. No nation was ever run by the masses. It is always the elites that have managed countries, have led countries. And it helps if those elites have a broad national consensus Lee Kuan Yew, in the early 60s, when he took over as Prime Minister of Singapore, you know, the country was divided along religious lines, divided along racial lines. You had the Chinese majority, and then you had the Malay, who were mostly Muslims, and then you have the Indians, who were mostly Hindus. And there were racial wars, religious conflicts in that country. When he took over, he brought everybody together and said, look, gentlemen and women, let's sit together and try to make Singapore great. Let us reduce and try to manage our diversity, reduce conflict areas, you know, outlaw anybody who will preach aggressive proselytization, and let us forge a set of norms and principles to guide our development. We need peace, we need social harmony. So even in the housing planning in Singapore, you must make sure that people live together. Not like in some parts of, northern Nigeria, where you have the city and you have Sabo, and never the twain shall meet. You know? In Singapore, they made it a conscious law to avoid that. The people should live together, people should interact together, and should learn to respect each other. And let us agree that we want social progress. We want industrialization. Okay? We want to become a strong and virile nation that will be respected by everyone. And the foundation of that is peace and social harmony. And then the leadership structure, the party structure, should reflect that. So it should never be a question with if somebody is Hausa Fulani, or if he's Yoruba, or if he's Igbo. Do you know that in this country there's an unconscious decision that some people will never aspire to? If I was an Igbo man, I would feel disgruntled, because there's a sort of implicit understanding since the Civil War that no Igbo person should aspire to become president. And the Igbos are very angry about it, and they feel marginalized. Some of these youths about Biafra, it's all about that. So we need a broad consensus among the elites that it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter your faith. Let us find the best people to manage our key sectors, and let's hold them accountable. So that if somebody's in a position and he's making a decision where to put an iron and steel company, where to put a refinery, it should not be about, oh, this is my area. It should be where it makes economic sense to locate such a factory. You know, all those things. There should be broad consensus and understanding on the way forward in economic development, in technology and innovation, and also in identifying future leaders. All of that is very critical, because if we get good leaders, if we get effective leaders, if we get vigorous leaders, everybody will benefit from it. It doesn't matter where they come from, it doesn't matter what faith they hold. That is crucial, but we have not evolved that kind of consensus among the elites. So the divisions which the elites continue to manipulate, continue to play on, will continue to afflict us unless we have that fundamental consensus and agreement. Because, you know, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Doctor, you know, as you're talking, I've been reflecting on a number of issues, what's your statements, and I'm just thinking that is there a way we can, or is there a headway for us economically if we don't put in all the sociological characters into place? Am I making sense?
You're making sense.
Because, you know, like you said, a house that is divided cannot stand.
Yeah.
So, in as much as we want to be one of the 20 top economies by 2020, I don't know if that is possible anymore. Our GDP growth rate has dropped. We're supposed to be growing double digits till 2020.
Yes.
It's dropped, but anything can happen. Who knows if we take the bulls by the horns and if we're ready to act. So is there a headway for us economically if we don't put all the sociological processes and characters in place, or sociologically actually, if we don't take a look at that. That's one. Then number two, in your article, you also said, second, that is, of course, secondly, political reform and constitutional re-engineering is imperative. At what point should the politicians begin to take the Nigerian or the nationhood of Nigeria seriously?
Yes.
And not to say it's for me anymore, or it's for my family, or my immediate environment.
Absolutely.
So how crucial is politics, or the re-engineering of politics right now in Nigeria? How crucial is it to the development of this country, even economically?
Oh, of course, it is crucial. It is everything. And when you mention the sociological aspects, which let me deal with before going to the other one, recently we heard news that the power shortages that we're experiencing when we went from almost 5,000 megawatts to
1,500 something,
Exactly. That the 3,000 megawatts simply disappeared. And the minister, Honorable Minister of Information, reveals that there were saboteurs behind this. Some people have actually gone to vandalize some of the power installations. In China, that would be a capital offense. In Nigeria, it ought to be a capital offense. Anybody, because he is killing a whole nation by doing that. In hospitals, mothers, expectant mothers in hospitals might die, including the baby, because power has been cut off. So whoever is doing that is killing Nigeria. But there's also an underlying problem, and that is the absence of patriotism, the absence of a national ethic. Anybody who loves his country, who has been taught from childhood to love his country, will not go behind in the middle of the night to destroy power installations. And the enemies of this country are humongous. There are enemies of Nigeria all over that don't want Nigeria to succeed. There are internal enemies and there are foreign enemies. And all they need to do is, pay a few miserable urchins and set them up at night to destroy our power installations. And I also suspect that there are a lot of people, the mafias in charge of generator importation. Some of those people are not happy to see power work. They're not happy to have stable electricity because that will undermine their business. So a lot of that is going on. We need to work on that. Of course, work to prevent it, but also work to educate a whole generation to take pride in being Nigerian.
Can Nigerians continue to love Nigeria? For example, I'm being told that history is no longer taught in schools. It's no longer taught in secondary schools. And when I heard it, I was like, what? I didn't do history in secondary school. I was a science student in secondary school, but I was sneaking and reading history books because I loved to read history. But I'm told now that we don't do history in our schools. And I was like, excuse me, so we can't learn, or what do generations that will still be born like in 10, 20, 50 years time, they won't hear of Nnamdi Azikiwe anymore. Well, people they will be hearing around is Kim Kardashian and the likes of them so what are we doing? And
then of Jose Mourinho and Chelsea. And whether
Doctor, I'm a Chelsea fan. Exactly. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I'm talking about.
Sure, I understand perfectly. Look, that is why I harped on the role of the leadership elites. That role is very crucial. When you have semi-literate people who are running a country, it doesn't matter whether they have a PhD. Some PhD are complete idiots, I'm sorry to say. And you have people who have no sense of purpose leading us, and the World Bank or somebody comes and tells them, oh, all you need is social studies. Get rid of history. And they've done that in Nigeria very deliberately.
I think it should be brought back.
The Japanese will never allow a foreigner to dictate to them the curriculum for their children because they are preparing the future. They teach Japanese history the way they want it to be taught. Of course, they exaggerate a lot of things. Even they twist the history of World War II and the rest of it.
To favor them.
To favor them. But it is conscious. It is a way of socializing their children to love Japan and to have no guilt or complex about Japan's past and its future. But somebody comes from outside and tells, oh, all you need is social studies. Get rid of history. They want to enslave you. They don't want your children to know their past and to take pride in their ancestors. They don't want it. And then some of them came in and introduced a stupid subject called modern mathematics. That was during Obasanjo's military time. They introduced modern mathematics.
Further maths, what we call further maths.
No, it's different from further maths. Modern mathematics.
Is it different from further maths?
No, it's completely different. Okay. There used to be general mathematics where you do algebra, number theory, and trigonometry, you know. And then they brought in modern mathematics in the late 70s, which in America was even being tried. It is useful for, you know, things like base mathematics, binary theory, and the rest of it. And, but it is not, it does not give a child the fundamental knowledge of mathematics. It must start with algebra, arithmetic, algebra, trigonometry, those foundations that can then lead to a better understanding of modern mathematics. So what we've done is that we make mathematics so abstract and make children so afraid of mathematics. And a country that does not produce mathematical geniuses cannot be a great country. And we are destroying the foundation of math and science at a very early age by the time we introduce very useless subject called modern mathematics. And it is because our leaders were badly informed. They themselves were basically semi-literate. Okay, so they didn't know anything better. And they absorbed some of these ideas from outside instead of looking at our condition and building on a foundation that will give our young people a solid and confident future. We failed to do that. But with regard to political re-engineering, you asked me a question whether that is necessary for economic development. It is absolutely necessary for economic development. For one thing, the cost of governance today is extremely high. The governance structure that we have is very expensive. 774 local governments, 36 states with FCT Abuja. Then we have the FGN. We sit down every month
and
share what comes from petroleum, which is a finite resource. We come, we sit, we share, and we depart. Next month will come. It is not a sustainable framework of governance. So we need to look at our whole system again and find a political structure that works for us. Do we need a bicameral system of government? In the First Republic, we did not have a bicameral. It was a unicameral system of government. Do we need so many departments of governments? Do we need so many ministers? Do we need 774 local governments? Do we need 36 states? All of that, we should put it on the table. If the Nigerian people, the great Nigerian people, decide that this is still what we need, then let us find a way of making it cost effective. And I have my doubts because nobody knows who wrote the 1999 Constitution.
Yes, you read it. You wrote it in your article.
We have suspicions.
I don't know who wrote it.
Exactly. It could have been the devil. Well, General Abacha called one or two people, you know, kept them in his army barrack, and they produced it. Let me tell you, they were lawyers, and they put so many deformities and inconsistencies in the Constitution, you know, so that every single case, it will go to court, people will spend money and waste time, and, you know, and all of that. So it is a very defective Constitution. We need to rework it. It is written with very poor grammar, by the way. It doesn't have elegance as far as I'm concerned. It is not a constitution of we the people. We need a constitution of we the people, and to do so with conviction and with moral authority. So this constitution in that sense does not have moral legitimacy.
Doctor, earlier on I did read, I think the 7th paragraph, if I'm not mistaken, I started with it. That's talking about economic capacity. We must begin with energy, electricity, development of high technology and all of that. But I want you to talk about what you wrote here. Ultimately, we must strive to be a knowledge-based society. because everything is moving towards a knowledge economy right now.
Absolutely.
And I'm actually, or I wonder most times if we are on that track.
Yes.
If we're on that track at all, in terms of
Absolutely.
being a knowledge-based society. Or shouldn't we even talk about a knowledge economy now, because we're still trying to patch up
Yes.
from the woods, so to
Yes,
speak. So
absolutely.
it takes steps, or should we just leapfrog to being a knowledge-based society?
Yes, absolutely. My son, for example, is very interested in wildlife, and we watch National Geographic. Sometimes it makes me watch it with him. And I ask a simple question. I say, how come we in Nigeria don't know all the wildlife, like in Abuja? If it is Europeans or Americans living in Abuja, I'm telling you, families, friends, scientists, amateur people, every weekend, they will take cameras, they will take camp equipment, they will go into the wilderness, they will stay there, they will explore the flora and the fauna.
Doctor, people will say we don't even have food to eat yet. People are hungry and you are entering the wilderness to look for animals.
Absolutely.
I saw a sorry to cut it short, I saw a picture of, I don't know if it's the lion or one of the lions in the zoo. Is it in Jos?
Yes.
I don't know if you saw the picture. A lean lion, the lion is almost dying of hunger. It circulated on social media, I think, last week.
Yes.
So you can imagine, I haven't eaten well and I'm going into the parks. To do what? I have to go and hustle.
That is very true. You have a point there. You see, for all you know, there was a budget for that lion to be fed. And somebody decided, I haven't eaten goat meat, and they want to kill goat for the lion. But you see, quite seriously, look, an American friend, a professor, I took him to my home village. We drove from here, to Sanga in southern Kaduna, and he asked me, say, wow, all these trees, all this wood, have you people ever studied them? I said, study the trees and the wood and the plants.
We have people that study botany
but they don't,
and forestry.
They don't care.
Like forestry.
They don't care. Every department, we have botany, we have zoology, but they don't care. And he said, what he actually said, he asked me, he said, do you know that in this woodland, you may have one plant that can bring hundreds of billions to Nigeria?
To the country, true.
You may never know unless you study them. So when I talk about a knowledge society, it's not only about knowing your rural countryside. No, it is about harnessing your natural environment to turn it into value, to turn it into capital, into assets, into products that you can sell to the world market. It is about mastering your environment and understanding it, harnessing the potentials there, and turn it into marketable products, building industries based on that. It is about science, it is about mathematics, it is about applied technical engineering and the rest of it. This should be the foundation of national greatness. Honestly, Nancy, Nigeria can survive without oil. The biggest investment we need is investment in human capital, in science, knowledge, mathematics, engineering, and using that knowledge to harness our natural resources and turn them into marketable products. It is possible. It is doable. Of course, we also need an ICT backbone that will support
I thought
that.
you weren't going to mention that.
Of course, we need an ICT backbone for that, technology, communications. But right now in Nigeria, we don't even have a telephone backbone. All we have are mobile telephony. There's no country, there's no civilized country in the world that has more mobile phone than fixed lines. Fixed lines are cheaper. Fixed lines in all countries are the majority of phones. Our own, we allowed a few people to come here to come and buy our telecom space, and they've made sure that the fixed line system doesn't work, so they are reaping humongous profits. They've even refused to go into the stock market so that Nigerians can share in that wealth, because they deliberately want to corner those billions of dollars to themselves at the expense of the Nigerian people.
And capital flight
capital flight. So we should deal with those kind of issues. We need a fixed line backbone in this country. We should resuscitate it. Of course, you know, I am a believer in science, and I believe that with technology, with science, a human being can master his destiny. And that is a country like Israel has, apart from America, they have more companies registered in the New York Stock Exchange than any other country. And Israel is just about 6.5 million people. They've been able to do that very successfully because the Technion in Israel, one of the best scientific technological universities on earth, makes sure it attracts the very best. They are doing research, not just armchair research, but applied research to solve problems in medicine, in agriculture, in agronomy, in robotic technology, in defense technology, and all the rest of it. That is the kind of mindset transformation that I would like to see in Nigeria, in which science and technology and engineering are the dominant culture of the country.
Doctor, you would answer this, but let me ask you the question. Of course, in the article you said, I am also persuaded that we need to reinvent government as a driver of transformation and accelerated government.
Yes.
You would answer the question in a bit. I want to read the tweets, and the question will be, with this administration, are you inspired that the current government is reinventing itself and is a driver of transformation, or is a driver of change now? Because transformation was a PDP government slogan, but perhaps is this government inspiring, and is it a driver of change as the promise, an accelerated government? So think through your answers while I read the tweets that are coming through.
Thank you.
Okay, Ezurike Nneka Joy says, loving the discussion with Doctor. He's saying exactly what we need in this country. Nasiru says, Nancy, they keep telling you our founding fathers, but they will not reveal the damage, the errors of that these men cost the nation. Sulaiman says, Nancy, God bless you and your guest. He's sincere, and I know he is ready to divulge more fundamental issues challenging our country. Tommy says, steady electricity supply is the one magic wand, if fixed, will get our great Nigerian people back to work again. Aminu says, we need leaders with great vision to lead us out of this mess. Nigerians are becoming hopeless. Obina says, Nigeria is in no way a great nation until we reinvent ourselves and the economy. That's the only way we can be great again. Vincent says, the economy, no doubt, is in trouble and is taking its toll on Nigerians. Things have all gone up. Philip says, I think there is a need for restructuring of our education curriculum. All the subjects should be restored, like history. I wasn't a history student anyway, but I think history should be brought back. Vicent says, I commend the fight against corruption by President Buhari, but I'd like to draw the FG's attention to our bad roads and hike in commodities. Obimba says, Nigeria is not yet a nation. That is why we cannot come together as one, and the government is not helping matters as well. Boye Francis says, I must say I am enjoying the analysis of your guests. God bless you, sir. You are so on point. Many tweets, but that's the much I can take.
Yes, indeed. Lovely compliments, and thanks to you also, our viewers, for your very kind comments. You know, you are encouraging us to pursue the path of truth and justice, which is what we need in this country. But to your question, whether I'm inspired by the current government, I've always said that the current government, the APC administration, came into government with a lot of moral capital. President Muhammadu Buhari, for a long time, is the only Nigerian who got power because he wanted it. In the past, Nigerians, the party system tended to choose people that didn't necessarily want power and didn't prepare for it. Goodluck didn't want it, and he didn't really prepare for it. They just called him and said, you are going to be vice president. He was shocked. He was not prepared for it. Then, of course, his boss died. Yar'Adua died, and he became president through an act of destiny. So, he is the first one in a long time that consciously wanted power. In fact, he stood 3 times and lost. This is the 4th attempt he made it. So he came with a lot of moral capital. Nigerians voted for him. Nigerians wanted him. They sympathized with him. But I would like to see more governance rather than firefighting. Don't get me wrong. We must tackle this issue of corruption rigorously to the last drop of our blood. We must fight it because, as the popular saying goes, if we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us. So it is not about just fighting corruption. It is about establishing a concrete foundation for governance in this country, to have a blueprint for the economic restructuring of Nigeria towards a country that is a technologically industrial economy. We should aim to become a first world economy in the next generation. In the next 30 years, we should aim to become a first nation economy. At least better than Mexico and other countries like that are very close to first world status. And in fact, countries like Turkey should be learning from us, not us learning from Turkey. Those kind of things. But I am not seeing that vision being manifested clearly in the current administration, in the way they are going about things. Nigerian people expect more. And I'm hearing a lot of grumbling in the media that this change thing, and in fact, if you go to the same market and mention change, some people will attack you. They will tell you to get off. Even people who actually are the natural constituents of the APC, they are grumbling. They are very, very unhappy. A lot of things are not going right. And we hope, those of us who are sympathetic to the government and want it to succeed, hope that they will do the best they can to act quickly to salvage whatever is left of their reputation so that this country can move forward.
On that note, Doctor, many thanks for coming on the program today and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
For me, it's not all about figures all the time, but the program today is just about a think tank, so to speak. Let's deeply reflect. Let's have a sober reflection and think of where we want to be on the path of greatness. So many thanks. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you. You too have a great day, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Obadiah Milafie, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. We've been looking at re-engineering growth and prosperity, purpose-driven nation article he wrote on Business Day newspapers on Monday. Many thanks for your comments and for your tweets. Thank you for joining us today. But like I always say, be the best you can be the change you also want to see. I am Nancy Ilo. Join us again tomorrow. God bless Nigeria. Bye now.